It's time to listen to the podcast that houses a safe and open forum for casual and cold takes on the world of professional wrestling and sports. Open up that fridge and grab that very cold lasagna. Welcome everyone to another episode of Very Cold Lasagna. I am your host, DylanLasagna. Welcome to the podcast housing a safe listening space for casual fans to have an open forum, both on the comments or wherever you listen to and however you listen to this podcast. It's an open forum, however you may look at it, on the most casual, the coldest, and even the dumbest takes on the world of WWE, All Elite Wrestling, and the NFL, and the worldwide sports of wrestling and football in general. Now, today, in this episode, I'm finally going to focus on all you wrestling fans out there, because as a wrestling fan myself, I like to talk about the WWE because that's what I grew up with, besides the NFL. And I feel like with the WWE, I feel like that's the sport I mostly grew up with, most passionate about, and that's what I'm going to talk about here today, because this Sunday, at the time of this recording, on January 31st, at the very tail end of the month, it's that time of the year, that time of the month for January, it's the Royal Rumble. What is the Royal Rumble? Well, it's the one time of the year where 30 men and 30 women have two separate matches, and they get one shot to have to fight it out for a title opportunity for their choice of title, world title at least, at the grandest stage of them all in April, WrestleMania. So I'm excited to talk about some wrestling again. It's been a while since I've actually done it. But before we get into it, I want to do some plugs, obviously, because we gotta air out the plug laundry, as I like to call it, here on this podcast. We gotta make the plugs, as we often have to do. If you're listening to this on YouTube or watching this on YouTube, make sure you click subscribe, or if you haven't already. It's pretty much been a slow month on YouTube, and hopefully it gets better, even like as we continue to get things rolling. So if you're watching this on YouTube, and if you're watching this for the first time, make sure you click subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you'll be notified of every vodcast that goes up on the channel, as well as extras. I've been doing extras lately. I have another one coming up on the Deshaun Watson situation, and some trade packages from a casual fan. So that'll be coming up soon, if it's not up already. If you're listening to this on an audio platform like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Anchor, those three platforms in particular, go listen to that and follow it and review it however you may please. Any good feedback is good feedback, so it helps me improve on the show's quality. And in general, your support means the world to me, however it may be. So that being said, let's get right into it. Let's get into today's topic, and that is the Royal Rumble. And I gotta be honest with all you wrestling fans out there, I'm going into this pay-per-view very blind, very lapsed. It's like, again, this is the first pay-per-view in a long time. I'm a filthy casual when it comes to wrestling, and that's because of a lot of factors, honestly. I've been watching wrestling for about, I'd say, 15 years. That's crazy. 15 years of wrestling. And to this day, I felt like either a casual or core wrestling fan. The core spectrum of wrestling fans, like in the middle, not like I'm like, I know things about wrestling, but then I still don't know certain things about wrestling. So I'm not on that hardcore level, like within the IWC or the Smarky level, but I'm just in the middle where it's fair game. It's fair game. But nonetheless, yeah, it's the first time in a long time where I'm going into this very lapsed. I have almost no clue what to expect, who's going to win. So I pretty much, when I wrote down like who I think is going to win and why, it's probably going to be vastly different than a lot of the predictions that are going to be out there on YouTube or some other podcasters out there. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay, because all I could say is throughout the last time I watched wrestling, like deeply, I think it was I don't know, was it Hell in a Cell? So it is about 2 months, but like deeply, like I was all into it. Like I think it was around last year, WrestleMania, and then ever since WrestleMania 36, I've been like highlights, match results on Bleach Report. Highlights, match results, Bleach Report. I've just been like, okay, yeah, this thing happened. And sometimes I talk about it on my other YouTube channel, but nonetheless, it's just it's going to be interesting to see what has changed, what hasn't, or lack thereof, going into this show on Sunday, January 31st. So that being said, we have about 5 matches that I would like to cover here on today's show. And we're going to start with the Women's Tag Team Champions. Wait, the Women's Tag Team Championships. Those are still a thing. Those are still a thing. And they're being held by the champions are Charlotte and the Raw Women's Champion, Asuka. Correct me if that's right. The Women's Tag Team Champions are Charlotte Flair and the Raw Women's Champion, Asuka, going up against the former champions Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler in a rematch from TLC. Okay. Okay. So when prior to recording this, I did some research going into this, and as I'm writing this down, as I'm getting prepared for this episode, my first initial thoughts were, why is this happening? Why should I care when neither team is interacting with one another, hasn't been interacting with one another ever since the victory at TLC, their match at TLC. So why should I care? Why should you care? Especially if you're a casual, why should you care? Other than you like a Charlotte, like an Asuka, you like one of these wrestlers. Why? Why should I care? So, firstly, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler are still a team. I remember, they formed a team because they were forced to form a team, a couple months ago, and they ended up winning the Women's Tag Team Championships, and they never seemed to form any tension during their reign. And all of a sudden, the makeshift team of Asuka and Charlotte, and the returning Charlotte Flair, mind you, but if fact checked, TLC was the first pay-per-view Charlotte was at following her hiatus last July. So, yeah, I had no idea Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler were still a team prior to me talking about it right now. And then secondly, speaking of Charlotte and Asuka, why as tag team champions are they in different programs? Why are they in different programs? You have Charlotte Flair in a doing her own thing with Lacey Evans and her dad, Ric Flair. I remember Lacey Evans and Ric Flair were doing this pose. You can't see it, but they're kind of this mock-up of when Triple H and I think it was Trish Stratus doing a sexual pose, but they were actually trying to do practicing a yoga stretch or something back in, it was a Raw segment in 2000 or something. And then Stephanie McMahon opened the door and was like, "Hunter, how dare you?" And this was the 2021 version of that. And then it was just weird, but I give credit to Lacey Evans' acting ability for that. Her personality was good here. But I don't know why Charlotte's doing that though. And then Asuka, she's been having matches with Alexa Bliss's red hot character, red hot personality. But as for Asuka, she's only had 2 matches, and those 2 matches were against Alexa Bliss ever since winning the tag team championship with Charlotte at TLC. But again, correct me if I'm wrong on that in the comments. But from what I've seen, those were the only 2 matches that I saw when researching. So you've got your champions and challengers doing their own thing. As for the challengers, they've been doing their own thing too with Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose, who I feel should be tag team champions, because they've been like, even though they're kind of makeshift, they've been around. They've been like teaming with each other. They're kind of trying to establish their chemistry, but like WWE Creative hasn't been like giving us many reasons why they're a team. But they're kind of like the only team besides the Riot Squad as to why they should be tag team champions. So yeah, that's the situation right now. And even as a Labs fan, even as a filthy casual, why should I care about this match? Why should I care? Why should I care? Other than the fact that this is a big problem. This is a glaring situation, once again, that there's not enough women's wrestlers in the WWE. Even if there's so many in NXT, there's so many talented women's wrestlers in NXT that are to put together non-makeshift tag teams. They broke up like the ones they did have, and now there's practically no one in the so-called tag team division for the women's side. So I'm just kind of curious why the women's tag team division and the titles in general are still there. I don't know. I don't know who to pick here. I guess maybe Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, because I figured that this is probably going to lead to Charlotte turning against, going villainous against Asuka anyway. So I don't know, and I don't care. What I do care though is the next match. I do care about this next match, and that is the WWE Champion Drew McIntyre going up against Big Bill. Not Bill from Nintendo, the ones that's always in skits with Reggie Fils-Anime back in the day. I'm talking about Bill Goldberg for the WWE Championship. And it's going to be one of those matches again where the internet and casuals are going to have a field day. And for the casuals, it might be a good day. The IWC, not so much. And as much as I hate to say it, I'm going to roll with Goldberg on this one, simply because of history dictating that every time that Goldberg's in a championship match, besides WrestleMania 33, he always comes out on top. And the thing I don't like about Goldberg, I totally respect the casual appeal he gets from truthers, anti-smarks, casuals. I also respect the legacy he has carried, especially in WCW and in his prime in 2003 when he was at WWE. The problem today is that he hasn't really had a safe match other than WrestleMania 33 against Brock Lesnar. And actually, all the matches he's had with Brock Lesnar were pretty much the only ones that were safe matches. Every match he's had with Kevin Owens, The Undertaker, Bray Wyatt, they were either unsafe or had the wrong winner, and that was Goldberg. WWE Creative booked Goldberg in the wrong matches at the wrong time, and yeah, that's why I think that's been the problem with Goldberg. All of them had a bad luck. Either it was related to Goldberg being unsafe in those matches, and it was also due to booking those matches, especially the last one with Bray Wyatt. Bad timing in terms of booking. So again, I think that WWE is gonna go for the short-term casual appeal as much. Like, even though I think Drew McIntyre is the second best champion in WWE, besides Roman Reigns. Like, you already know how I feel about Roman Reigns. We'll get to him in a second. I just think Drew McIntyre hasn't had the benefit of a crowd, especially when he won the WWE Championship last year against Brock Lesnar. And creative just makes him like a goof. He doesn't have him either be a serious badass or at least if he wants to act like if he at least wants to act like act funny, don't like do it all the time. Don't do it like every single week. You have to balance that with your serious attitude, you know. Do it like 25% of the time. But that being said, I see Goldberg winning on Sunday, but I can also see it going another way, in which that the Miz, Mike Mizian, and the Miz also holds the Money in the Bank briefcase. But in case you don't know, if you're lapsed like me, he holds a guaranteed World Championship match that he can use anytime, any place. And if you've been lapsed for this long, he won it from Otis back in October at Hell in a Cell. So I can also see a situation where whether or not Goldberg wins or Drew McIntyre retains, The Miz and John Morrison are going to attack the winner, and either The Miz cashes in successfully and becomes WWE champion, or Goldberg or Drew recover just enough to actually beat The Miz, and Miz fails in yet another cash in, this time successfully. He successfully fails to cash in. So that's where I see this WWE title match. I mostly see Goldberg winning because of WWE wanting to fill up like as many limited seats as possible for WrestleMania, because there's probably going to be like 25,000 seats because of COVID. And then I also they also want to try to hype this show, like, because this is going to be the first WWE show in like a year in a still pandemic era that they're going to have fans, and they want to like get as much fans like in terms of how many like are interested as possible. So they want to generate that kind of hype, even if it's in the short term. So that's where I stand on the WWE title match. As for the Universal Championship match, Roman Reigns is going to have one how do I say it? Another last man standing match against Kevin Owens. I deeply remember this, at least. He was in another last man standing match against Baron Corbin. That one was from last year, at last year's Royal Rumble. He's once again going to be in another last man standing match against Kevin Owens. This time against Kevin Owens this year. And this time he's going to be defending the Universal Championship, and this time he's the villain. And even if I haven't been watching SmackDown that often, all I can say is from what I've seen on Twitter, from what I've seen on YouTube, all I can say is Roman Reigns has been the best thing going for WWE overall, as the head of the table, as the tribal chief, as the real hero of the WWE, the real babyface of the WWE. He's angry. When he gets angry, he's silent. He delivers on his promos in a way Roman Reigns can. He's actually gotten better on promos. He still can do better, but obviously much better than when he was a babyface. He's also bossy around Paul Heyman and Adam Pearce. He's very persuasive, so that's a big plus too. He's like a mafia boss, if you like to put it that way. So that a lot of those qualities are why he's the Universal Champion and why he's WWE's top star right now. Hopefully, he can continue to develop himself even further as a top heel, and who knows, he might be the friend. If he continues that path of developing himself, bettering himself, then he could be the franchise guy that everyone hopes in WWE hopes him to be. But as for Kevin Owens, I don't know why he's back in this spot. When Roman Reigns beat him decisively at TLC in that TLC match, and when they had that, when Roman Reigns took him out a couple weeks ago on SmackDown, I thought that was the signal that someone else and should have gotten his spot, should have faced Roman Reigns too. And I think they should have. It wasn't this Adam Pearce dude was supposed to face Roman Reigns, or if it wasn't going to be Adam Pearce, because Adam Pearce had this injury clause, shouldn't have Shinsuke Nakamura taken his place, because that would have made more sense, because technically Roman Reigns cost Nakamura the gauntlet match. I mean, that would have made more sense if you ask me, but again, that's just my opinion. But anyway, I think Roman Reigns is finally going to end this feud with Kevin Owens. He's finally going to come out as the last man standing, and well, I think he holds this title for a year. I think he holds the WWE title, the Universal title, going into WrestleMania and after WrestleMania. That's my bold prediction. So for the Universal title match, I'm going with Roman Reigns. He remains your Universal champion after the Royal Rumble, going into WrestleMania, and hell, even after WrestleMania. So that's just how good he is right now. Now we got 2 more matches remaining, and well, granted, if there are going to be kickoff matches by the time this episode comes out, well, I'll mention it in the YouTube comments somewhere, because I ain't going back to edit this to put in kickoff matches, because they'll probably be irrelevant. The final 2 matches are the not the kickoff matches, the Royal Rumble matches, the men's and women's. Now, I don't know why they're doing this thing on the FS1 show. They're bringing back WWE Backstage for one night only to reveal. As for the women's side, they're revealing the first 2 entries of the Royal Rumble match, which I think that's fine. I don't really care if they do that. But for the men's, they're revealing the 30th entrant in the Royal Rumble match. I think that kind of takes away the mystique of who's going to enter that match. Shouldn't you be revealing the number 1 entrant instead of the 30th entrant? Because the 30th entrant either is someone that's already on the roster, so that makes it a boring pick, or it's someone that's surprising, that's oh shit, he what if he wins? Someone that will generate a reaction. That'll generate a big reaction from casuals, from the Smarks, the IWC, etc., etc. So, as for the winner, as for my personal pick for the Rumble, I don't know. I really don't know. It's really hard to pick someone here, because, in all honesty, I don't see anyone fitting to face a Roman Reigns or even a Drew McIntyre for any of the world titles on the main roster, because WWE hasn't really built, WWE Creative at least hasn't done a good enough job to build up most of their roster, especially on the men's side. The women's side, well, that's just on not having enough women to build stars around, or to make compelling stories around. But let's talk about the men's first. Again, I mentioned that it's very hard to predict a winner. But my safe pick, and this is probably going to be one that hardcore fans are clamoring for, and that's Daniel Bryan. And I don't know why they clamor for Daniel Bryan. They probably want a revived Yes movement, but they want Daniel Bryan to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, or even Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. So, cool, I guess. I just don't know why they want to revive the Yes Movement when, I don't know. I honestly think that Daniel Bryan hasn't really done much in the last, I'd say in the last year, like, ever since he lost to Bray Wyatt in that Universal title strap match at the last Rumble. So I'm not sure why the larger the larger portion of the IWC, like especially the hardcore fans, are rooting for Daniel Bryan. But I mean, I guess I could consider it a safe pick, but we'll see. But if it's not Daniel Bryan, then it's probably gonna be someone that will either trigger the large vocal portion of the IWC, or it'll be someone that's even really out of nowhere. Now, who could that be? Who can that be? Well, there's a couple things that I could think of here. As I mentioned earlier, if Goldberg loses his WWE title match against Drew McIntyre, then, well, he could enter the Royal Rumble. And he could challenge Roman Reigns for the Universal title. You know, the match we were supposed to get at last year's WrestleMania. You know, spear versus spear, as Michael Cole kept on trying to hype up so many times last year. So that could happen. And who knows? Brock Lesnar, we haven't heard a single hint or any single rumor of Brock Lesnar coming back at all, like whether it's on a pay-per-view like Survivor Series or on a random episode of SmackDown. And you know, I can't really blame him for Brock Lesnar wanting to come back like right now, because, well, even if the money presents itself, like, he wants to see fans, like he wants to see a live crowd like on a weekly basis, and not just like on a one show like a WrestleMania. But I don't know. Maybe Brock Lesnar could be convinced by Vince McMahon, the CEO, to come back, and he actually wins the Royal Rumble. And if Brock Lesnar ends up winning the Royal Rumble, this can go two paths. He either chooses to go after Drew McIntyre as revenge for WrestleMania 36, because remember, McIntyre chose Brock Lesnar, who was the WWE champion at the time, and McIntyre was the Royal Rumble winner from last year. McIntyre beat Lesnar for the WWE title last year, which led to Brock Lesnar's hiatus up to this point. So Brock Lesnar could go after Drew McIntyre if Drew McIntyre retains against Goldberg. But then again, if Goldberg is WWE champion, then Brock Lesnar could have a rematch with Goldberg at WrestleMania again. Or they could do this storyline with Roman Reigns, do a WrestleMania rematch with Roman Reigns again, only this time Brock Lesnar is the the hero, the baby face, and Roman Reigns is the heel, in this current tribal chief heel gimmick. And the X factor is Brock Lesnar's manager, Paul Heyman, who is also managing Roman Reigns. So that's something to keep in mind too. Even though the vocal smarks might be pissed part-timer like Brock Lesnar, and sometimes Brock Lesnar does get on my personal nerves too in terms of his booking. I think with this kind of situation, I wouldn't be too mad if Brock Lesnar wins and decides to go after Roman Reigns, because I think it could be an interesting storyline, especially if Brock Lesnar decides to put over, in this case for casuals, decides to let Roman Reigns win this time at WrestleMania to help him get his new gimmick over with, get his new heel character over with the fans that will be in attendance in Tampa. And then, so pretty much either Daniel Bryan, Goldberg, or Brock Lesnar could win it. But then I also have another X factor because, this past Monday on Raw, another legend announced his entry in the Royal Rumble, and that entry returned 1 year ago. One year ago to this date, and that man was Edge. Some of you may know him, some of you may not. But Edge, the rated R superstar, made his return last year from what was a career-ending neck injury, and this year around, he announced his entry for the Royal Rumble exactly 1 year after he returned in that exact same match. So he's an X factor. Edge is an X factor to win it, and I think it would also make a good choice, and also make the fans happy too. And it also fit the bill of spear versus spear for Edge and Roman Reigns, but like a matchup between Drew McIntyre and Edge would also be a good matchup. So I don't know. There are a couple of options that WWE can go with, but whichever option they go with could either be good or bad in terms of like the reaction for fans, even if they're in the Thunderdome. So speaking of the Thunderdome, it's gonna be kind of weird seeing the Rumble matches inside without fans. I mean, there's virtual fans, but again, it's not the same. The Rumble matches this year are not gonna be the same without fans. They're probably gonna have that very loud piped in crowd noise, and I don't know, it's just not gonna feel the same, because it's also gonna feel hurt for the wrestlers who do win it. So I don't know, it's just gonna like feel a little bit different for the winners too. So that's my predictions for the men's Rumble. I feel like there's gonna be a little bit of uncertainty on who wins it. Again, it could either be Daniel Bryan, the safe pick, or it could be some unpredictable winner like Goldberg, Brock Lesnar, or Edge, or could be someone else. Could be someone entirely else that can win it. Now, for the final match to discuss on this card, and that match is the Women's Royal Rumble. Now, I at least have one or two winners locked in, but I just want to first discuss something with this Women's Royal Rumble. I don't know, I think every time they do this Women's Rumble, it just, especially this year, this has to be the most flawed women's field in this Rumble, with the exception of 3 wrestlers: Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, and to a very small degree, Bayley. But outside of that, they don't have many names. As of this recording, they only have 12 women. That's only a quarter of what they got for the Rumble. They only got 12 women set for the Royal Rumble, and we can run down of how many women are missing in this match. You got main roster wrestlers that are currently on TV but are not even announced for the Royal Rumble. You got Natalya, Billie Kay, Mia. Oh, no, sorry. Retribution's Reckoning. The female member from the currently failed stable on Raw, Retribution, and Lacey Evans, who's again in a program with Charlotte Flair and her dad Rick. So I don't know why they're not in there right now. And then there are a couple of other main roster wrestlers that aren't there either due to injury, or they don't want to wrestle during the pandemic. And that includes Naomi, Lana, Nikki Cross, and Chelsea Green. So creatives gotta fill this field up. They have to, how are they gonna fill up this side of the Royal Rumble match, the women's side? Because again, they only got 12 women's wrestlers at the time of this recording, and I don't know how they're gonna fill it up, because you don't know how many surprise entrants you're gonna get. It could be anyone, it could be anybody, besides aside from the NXT cameos that you saw from last year, from 2019, and I think you also saw a few from 2018, but you saw a lot of it in 2020. But I don't know how many surprise entrants you're gonna get this year. You might see a Ronda Rousey, you might see a Trish Stratus, you might see a Lita. Hell, you might see Becky Lynch. You know, the repetitive man, as I like to call it, the stale ass man, Becky Lynch. But I don't know if she's ready to come back after a month from from just starting being a mother. You know, I don't think Becky Lynch is ready yet to even after a month of taking care of her child. I think she needs more time to settle in as a mother. So I don't know. I just don't see too many surprise entrants in terms of legends. But for NXT cameos, maybe like the likes of Dakota Kai, Candice LeRae, Ember Moon, Toni Storm, Shotzi Blackheart, and then you could get a main roster call up in Rhea Ripley. So I don't know. You got to fill up this women's field because it's very lacking right now. It again exposes that there's not enough women in this women's rumble to even make this compelling. Make this compelling. Have star power or anything. But that doesn't mean I have a locked in winner, and some outside choices looking in. And the person I think is a safe pick to go with is Bianca Belair. So from what I've seen is that they've been slowly but surely building up Bianca since her main roster debut. She's one of the only wrestlers on TV that's been actually getting vignettes, promo packages to build her character as this athletic woman that has actual agility, strength, vignettes to promote who she is, why she deserves to have a spot on TV and all that. Something that WWE for some reason never does to grasp their casuals anymore. But I don't know. I think the EST of WWE, I think, would be a good choice for them, even though I think it could. Personally, for me, I think I could try to invest more time in seeing the potential of Bianca Belair. But other than that, when she's had the airtime, she's delivered good promos, good athleticism, and good personality, all of which checks off in what pro wrestling, how balanced professional wrestling should be. And if Bianca Belair wins, she can have a match with Sasha Banks at WrestleMania and hopefully dethrone Sasha Banks as the SmackDown Women's Champion, because I think Belair is ready for that spot to become a champion when she didn't get that opportunity in NXT. Now, as for some other outside picks, I think Alexa Bliss, who's been doing well with her alliance with The Fiend and developing her character as I don't know what they call it now, Sister Alexa, but nonetheless, I think she'd be a great option to win the Women's Rumble too. She's on Raw lately, she's been hinting at bringing back her old character. It was during the Raw Women's title match where she was the Firefly Funhouse version of herself, and then she transformed into her old self prior to aligning herself with The Fiend, the Little Miss Bliss. And then she went into Sister Alexa, the very dark and scary version of Alexa, Sister Alexa. So she's been doing very well with this new gimmick. I just think though that she could still get a Raw Women's title opportunity at Mania by not winning the Rumble, because I think Randy Orton, because him and The Fiend and Bray Wyatt are still feuding. Orton and The Fiend are still feuding with each other. I think Randy Orton's going to cost Alexa Bliss another match again, like he did on Monday's Raw. So Randy Orton is gonna interfere in the Royal Rumble and RKO Alexa Bliss again. So that'll leave some other women's wrestler to take advantage and throw Alexa Bliss out of the ring. So I think Alexa Bliss would be a great option, but I don't know. We'll see. I think she could still get another title opportunity, and her losing here wouldn't affect her too much, especially if Randy Orton ends up costing her the Women's Rumble. Carmella could also be a good option, especially with what she's been doing lately with her new gimmick. It was a little off-putting to me at first because I wasn't understanding what exactly she was doing, but if casuals and some like balanced core fans seem to like it, then cool. I'm still trying to understand what exactly it is though. But if Carmella wins here, could also win, and she also has a right to win it too. But she's still she's still feuding with Sasha Banks, and she's still like her and her sommelier, whatever it is, are still hunting for that SmackDown Women's title. Like, so I don't think she needs to win it like the Rumble right now. And then also you got Charlotte Flair, who's also in this Rumble match. So who knows? She can go back to back. She can repeat as Women's Rumble winner because, WWE likes to make her the stat Padford, the Matthew Stafford of WWE. She likes to stat her pads. Except for Matthew Stafford, Charlotte Flair actually wins like so many world championships that, well, some casuals and most of the hardcore wrestling fans hate her so much. And I think this is an X factor. Sonya Deville. Sonya Deville has had great personality, great character work prior to her hiatus, but I think it could be too soon to have her win the Women's Rumble. And I don't think she's even in the Rumble yet, but she could be announced for the Women's Rumble. But even then, I don't think she should even be in the Rumble. But then again, they might have her join because the women's division is so devoid of talent on the main roster. So outside of those four, I don't really know who else could win it. Again, if it's not those four, maybe it could be a Rhea Ripley. It could be, hell, even it could be a very surprise entrant like Ronda Rousey. She can come back to WWE and actually win the Women's Rumble. She can challenge a Sasha Banks or challenge, well, if Charlotte ends up winning the Raw Women's title from Asuka before WrestleMania, then yeah, Charlotte Flair for the Raw Women's title at WrestleMania. So other than that, I just think Bianca Belair is probably the safe and best pick of winning the Rumble, and I could see her going after Sasha Banks to challenge for the SmackDown Women's Championship and hopefully winning the SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania. But these are just my opinions. These are just my picks to see who wins at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, the 2021 edition of the Royal Rumble. What do you guys think about who's going to win, who's not going to win, like what's going to happen at the 2021 Royal Rumble? The road to WrestleMania officially begins this Sunday, January 31st, 2021. Hopefully, it'll be at least decent. It'll be at least decent. A decent road to WrestleMania this year. And I just hope that it'll be an interesting one. It'll be an interesting Royal Rumble, both on the men's and women's side. And crazier things have happened. And I just hope that it won't lead to any chaos, especially on the internet. But anyway, that's it from me, your host of the Very Cold Lasagna podcast. I am DylanLasagna, and follow me on Twitter. I'm at Very Cold Lasagna. Follow me on the other audio listening platforms and listen to me on there at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. And please subscribe to me if you're watching the vodcast. And if you love the vodcast, like it, hate it, commenting on the vodcast, please show your support by subscribing here on the Very Cold Lasagna podcast YouTube channel. and turning on the notification bell so you'll be notified of every single upload that comes onto this VCL channel. And until next time, keep that lasagna very cold, filled with the coldest and dumbest takes on the world of wrestling and sports. And keep that fridge open, and I will see you all next time. Enjoy the Royal Rumble, everyone, and we'll be back next week. Take care, everyone.